It's Midnight Scroller here with Seiko, and we have Jeff Turner here today. He is going to show us how to scroll saw puzzles, and I believe it's an eagle puzzle, Jeff?
It is an eagle puzzle. It's an eagle puzzle out of the Fox Chapel book, patterned by Dave and Judy Peterson. Scroll saw animals.
Oh, very cool.
Really cool book. And so I'm thinking that the fish has got to be a salmon of some type, but I have not been able to figure out. And I'm a fisherman from all get out. Maybe Tom Taylor or Russ Beard, if they tune in later, they can help us.
That's what it is.
Northern fish than I am. This is definitely not a southern fish, so I'll tell you that.
So Jeff, tell us how you got into woodworking really quick, and tell us a little bit about what you got going on.
All right, so it's kind of a funny story. I got into woodworking. First, we needed a deck for a pool, so that was the first thing I ever built, was a deck with a lot of help. I emailed my wife's uncle, who's built a lot of decks. My father had passed away. Brilliant craftsman. About a year earlier, I didn't really have anyone who could tell me how to build this deck or give me measurements. So I texted my wife's uncle. I said, "Hey, if I give you the measurements, can you tell me everything I need?" And he's like, "Yeah." So that's all I needed, was somebody to tell me everything I need to build a deck. My brother had built a deck or two, so he'd come up, help me build the pool deck. And then I needed I was trying to launch a YouTube fishing show, but my laptop computer from Walmart was crap. So I built a computer. I needed a desk for the computer to sit on, so I built a desk. I literally just one weekend decided I was going to build a desk, and build a desk for the computer. And I told my wife, I was like, "Man, I really like building things, and I wanted to build furniture, but right as I started to get into this woodworking thing, the price of wood skyrocketed. So I started doing a lot of research, and I was like, man, if I got a scroll saw, I could make little stuff, and it not cost me an arm and leg. So me and my wife, I was like, I don't want to buy the most expensive scroll saw out there right away. So for my birthday, we went and got a little quarter cable scroll saw. It was a great scroll saw. I loved it. But then I started watching you and Russ Beard, Tom Taylor, a lot of guys making this fretwork stuff. And I was like, man, I want to do that. So I started doing a whole lot of research. And I remember the day I decided, I was like, hey, I'm going to save us some money. Get a good scroll saw. And I texted Russ Beard right away. And I'm sure he remembers the conversation. I was like, Russ, what do I do, Pegasus or Seiko? And he's like, man, I would go with Seiko every day of the week. And I talked to a lot of people, and I was really leaning toward Pegasus. But then I seen the wait list. The wait list at the time was a long wait list. So I was like, I did some research on this company in Seiko, and I was like, they're out of Texas. I was like, of course I'm going to go with them now. And that's what I did. I bought a Seiko scroll saw, and I haven't stopped. 18 months now. You've been at it, Shayla, you've been at it 19 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
19 months. I've been at it 18 months. We started around the same time. Your work is phenomenal. I'm just getting started. So,
oh, whatever. It's been fun because we've been able to grow together.
Yeah, it has. And definitely, yeah, you seeing you pushes me even further, because I see the stuff you're doing, and I want to do it too. So I seen you scroll out that book the other night, and I was like, wow, man, I want to do that, but I don't know if I want to do it for a book. That's what I meant to say.
It was a little bit of it was a little challenging because
Yeah, I'm an avid reader, so I really like it. But what else? Oh, let's talk about Seiko. We said we were going to do that in a pre-show. Let's talk about why Seiko. Can we do that real fast?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so guys, if you don't have a Seiko screw saw and you're wondering what all the hype is, it's little stuff like this. Hold on, let me go the right direction there. Little stuff like this. Every product I've gotten from Seiko, I've gotten a little note from a guy named Mike, all right, who happens to help Ray out down there a whole lot. Seiko is a small company out of Texas. Now, when I got that note, my wife's from Texas. When I got that note, I ran in my wife's room. I said, hey, this is the difference in an American-made company and some big box store company you're dealing with. And my wife looked at me and she's like, isn't that a company based out of Texas? I'm like, yeah. She's like, no, that's the difference between that's probably the truth. Everything I've learned about Texas since being married for 30 years to a Texan, that's probably the truth. And every time, me and Shaylee were just talking about this, every time you call Seiko, you're going to get Mike on the phone, period. And if you don't get him on the phone right away, he's going to call you back. He left. Last time I called him, he left me like 3 messages. I was in a meeting and he left me 3 messages. And all it was a stupid question on how thick a material can I cut on my Seiko. But
Jeff,
to him to answer that question, he left me like 3 or 4 messages. And again, guys, I'm not by Seiko, but a product I like, a product that I believe in. I'm gonna go above and beyond for the company because I believe it's one. They're based out of America, they're based out of Texas, and you can get them on the phone. So that's why Seiko. That's awesome. Why Seiko. What else? What other questions do we have?
We don't have any. We got a lot of people saying hi. Lori and Charles and Steve and Gary are all saying hello.
Guys, so much.
Let's see. So we can actually just have you get started if you want to start your project, and I will make you big screen. And if anybody has any questions in the chat as he's going along with his project, just type them in the chat, and I will be sure to ask him those questions and get you guys answers. Let's get you on the big screen here.
So guys, we're going to be cutting this pattern out of screw saw animals. I've drilled a couple of holes. Blades I'm going to be using for this project are number 5 Ultra Reverse to cut out the outline, and then the actual puzzle pieces we're going to try to use a number 3 Ultra Reverse. Next week though, the majority of the puzzle cutters that I know, Steve Sear, a lot of the guys in the Facebook puzzle group, they use modified geometry blades. And next week, I'm going to order a bunch of those and start using those. And I'm told those blades are great for puzzles. Using the Ultra Reverse, you still get fuzzies on the back, believe it or not. Using Ultra Reverse, and you still got to sand a lot. Scott says he doesn't sand at all. And he's using, and those who don't know Scott Shearer, he's been cutting puzzles almost probably 2 years, maybe 3. Correct me if I'm wrong, Scott. And that's all he does is cut puzzles. And he uses modified geo blades. I know I had a question about that and what I'm using to cut these puzzles out. Yeah, I do a lot of sanding on the background. Actually, I use a Dremel with a wire brush to polish them up after I'm done. I pre-cut the holes. I drilled a hole right here above the fishtail. Tom Taylor, he kind of run me because I like to cut counterclockwise, and we're going to cut the outline out, and I already drilled the eye out. I don't have a Forstner bit, so I kind of create this effect where I drill a really small hole first, and then I use a larger drill bit and just drill real lightly down there with a bigger drill bit, and it gives the eye a little hook. But without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and cut the outline of the eagle out and see how far we get. This is solid oak. By the way, this is just a solid oak shelf. I like cutting the eagle out of this. It gives it a great look. Is it tough to cut? Yes, it's really tough to cut. A lot of blade changes in there when you're cutting out the outline into pieces. You don't want to do a blade change in the middle of a piece cut though. Never do a blade change in the middle of a piece cut because you're going to it's not gonna fit right when you go to put it back in. So make sure whatever, and you got to use the same size blades and the same type of blade when you're cutting these pieces out. All right, you can use a different blade for the outside, but all your inside cuts, you want to make sure you start and finish with the same type of blade and the same size of blade. Cut, and I'm starting around the eagle claw here.
Hey, Jeff, you're frozen.
Yeah.
There you're back. You're back. Okay, you froze on there for a second. I had a comment about what to talk about with blades. I posted it to your page. Gary, did you post it to the Seiko page or whose page did you post it to? I'm looking for it right now. And you can keep going, Jeff. Sorry.
And again, guys, I'm going to just take my time with this because, again, it's solid oak.
Gary, can you rewrite it? I'm sorry. I looked everywhere and I can't seem to find it. And I went to the post on which puzzle, but I don't know if we had a post for that. I'm not sure.
So was it the question about blades?
Yes.
Okay, so I think I answered that question. One part of that question. Anyway, so again, I'm using ultra reverse blades, just like the guys posing the question, and I do a lot of sanding. So I posed that question. In fact, I posed that question Thursday or Friday in the Screw Saw Puzzles Facebook page, and they all use Pegasus. I'm sorry, I keep saying that wrong. Pegasus modified Geo blades. Most of them use number 3s and number 5s. I'm going to order some next week because I do a lot of sanding too, and I'm trying to alleviate as much work as I can. Not so much on this piece because it's oak. I don't got to worry about it. But when I use poplar, there's a lot of sanding on the poplar puzzle pieces, and a lot of the guys in the page say they don't sand anything at all. So it's kind of interesting. That question popped up. I think another part of that question, and this is the reason I released my blade tension on here, is a trick that Tom Taylor, Russ Beard, Charles Hand, they've all talked about this at some point, is if you're having trouble with blade tension, right, there's a little tip right here on your blade tension knob. And the first thing you want to do is just take a piece of sandpaper, scratch that up a little bit, and that should get you straight. Another thing you can do, I'm going to try to do this as gentle so I've already taken it out once today, is I don't know if you can see that, but on the very tip of that tip, there's a little O-ring, right? You take a little squirt of WD-40, just a squirt, or maybe even some 10 weight oil. Dip it in there, put it back in there, and you should see it press in and out just like that right there. Now, if I say something wrong, the guys at Seiko will correct me, but that's a little trick that Charles Hand, Tom Taylor taught me. If you're having trouble with blade tensioning or getting the blade to tension up on your Seiko scroll saw, you just do that right there, and it will give you that B sound every time, that C sound, whatever sound you're looking for. All I know is it helps the blade stay tight. So if you're having trouble with blade tensioning, that is the way to go. Also, while we're talking about saw maintenance, you want to take that WD-40 and take a light coat and just wipe down your saw before you put it to bed at night, and spray in here, vacuum these out in here, and maintain it. Charles Hand did a great article on that in Scroll Saw Woodworking Magazine. Maybe it was the issue before last, but I remember reading it, and I was like, a little bit of preventive maintenance goes a long way, and it'll make these saws last a little bit longer. So definitely something to think about. But if you're having trouble with blade tensioning, just use this.
Sorry, Jeff. We have a bit of a delay between me and you. So
okay.
Um, Chicago Celtic Craft says hello all, and he says thank you. Never knew that. And Charles Steering says, unless a human hair size blade, it's pretty much pointless to do a puzzle with a spiral. I assume due to the curve. That's an assumption and a question.
Now some, yeah, don't. I would not use spiral blades. Now, some of the guys, what they'll use spiral blades for is for some detail work to make the lines a little bit wider in the detail work. Like maybe on this fish, you see where his tail fin, to separate that. Some of the guys will use a spiral blade in there. I haven't done it yet, but I seen where some guys were doing spiral blades to make that a little bit wider. But I I agree with Charles for sure. There's no need to use a spiral blade on this. In fact, I love ultra reverse blades, and I believe in being blade versatile. You get some guys who say they can't cut with straight blades. You get some guys who say they can't cut with spiral blades. My advice is to learn to cut with both. And I think a lot of and I'm fairly new to this. I mean, I've only been doing it 19 months, but a lot of the older guys told me that if you can get versatile with both, your scrolling's you're gonna take it up a whole notch. And I think that's true in anything you do. Do I prefer straight blades? Yes, because there's a whole lot less sanding involved, especially when you're using ultra reverse blades. And I do believe that. I do like using spiral. In fact, my favorite spiral blade to use is, I think yours is the same, Shaylee, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a 2-aught Pegasus spiral blade, because those Pegasus blades are they are so tough, and you got a lot fewer blade change outs with those Pegasus blades.
I actually use Flying Dutchman. I'm not a fan of those ones.
I mean, they are. I will say this: they are less forgiving. If you go to cutting and you're not paying attention to what you're doing, you'll cut right through a bridge before you know it. So you have to be careful when using them. That's for sure. So, guys, I don't know if you just seen what I just did there. I just cut out a little hole, little bitty hole to put my blade back into as I'm changing out. Again, this is solid oak, so I'll probably have a little bit more blade change out than I would if I was scrolling a piece of poplar. And again, we may not get this. I was just trying to look at my watch for the time. We may not get this all cut out, but that's all right. We'll get a couple of pieces cut out.
While you're sawing, I'm gonna read the chat here.
Okay.
Pegasus spirals are sharper but way more brittle. Roberta says, I can't cut with Pegasus blades, Flying Dutchman all the way, flat or spiral. Gary posted his question in here now, which you've answered a lot of it, I believe. Let's see this scroll. I'm going to read this really quick because it's long, and then I will answer what I think as well. Gary, from my experience between Flying Dutchman and Pegasus blades, Pegasus blades seem to be more brittle than Flying Dutchman blades. As far as the fuzz goes, I'm not sure because I haven't used them for that long as far as Pegasus blades go. I went through like 12 of them and I don't even know. It's a really short amount of time because they just kept breaking off in the middle. So I'm not really sure. I think it's just the blade manufacturer and how they're made. I'm not really sure on the fuzz, though, what the difference would be. Intention on the saw, as far as that would help with the breakage, but the fuzzies, I'm not really sure. Hello, Herb.
Hey, so if you're breaking a lot of blades, and Charles is probably, I'm not saying Charles is a blade breakage expert, but he's definitely a scroll saw expert, and he can tell me if I'm wrong. But if you're breaking a lot of blades, either you're pushing too hard or you're not changing out your blade enough. And if chances are, if you're pushing too hard, you're not changing out your blade enough. Because I used to have a lot of blade breakage, and I texted Tom and Tom Taylor, Russ Beard, and they both told me the same thing. You got to change out your blade. When you start pushing too hard, it's time to change out those blades. So check that. Make sure you're square. Always make sure you're squared. I was in here squaring up my blade. That's another thing about Seiko. I've never had to worry about squaring up the saw, because when I come in here, it's always square. But I check it. I'm not complacent about it. I always check it to make sure that my saw blade is going to be square to the table. So I'm not having to worry about it. Now, some people are seeing this bounce around. That's because this board is a little bit warped. I took it on post. I don't have a planer, so fortunately though, I'm retired military, so I live about 8 miles from Fort Rucker. They got a great wood shop over there, and they have a planer. So I took it and planed it down the best I could. I didn't get it all apparently though. So that's why you're seeing this board bounce around a little bit, and then I'm being a little bit more aggressive in the turns as I turn it.
But because I use reverse blades, not alt reverse, I do still get some fuzzies. I always sand before and after anyways. Yeah, I sand no matter what, but I think you're going to get fuzzies a little bit with any blade. So Jeff, when you're cutting puzzles, do you cut the outer edge first or do you cut all the little pieces as you go?
So it's funny you asked that question. When I first started cutting puzzles, I would cut each little piece as I went. And then I watched the video. The guy who actually kind of got me into cutting puzzles. Well, I've been wanting to cut puzzles for a long time, but I didn't have a drill press, and most of the puzzles I wanted to cut were thicker wood. That's the thing about cutting puzzles, the self-staining 3D type puzzles. Your Citgo drill is great, but you're gonna want a drill press to drill through some of the thicker wood, and your Seiko scroller's drill is good up till probably 1 inch, 1 inch or so, but the drill press just makes it easier. Now I do love that Seiko scroller drill, and I'm not giving it away. I did it like 30 times last night when I started cutting back on that, because that fretwork pattern that back there you see. But I watched the videos. Steve Sears got a video out on how he makes his puzzles. It's a great video, and you're going to cut the outline first, and then Hans Muir. I went back and watched a Hans Muir video. If you're a scroller, especially a beginning scroller, and you have not watched Hans Muir give his lecture at the Gwinnett Woodworking Association that he does, you have to go watch that video. Hans Muir is probably I've watched it time and time again, just seeing if I can learn something new from Hans. It's just unbelievable the stuff you pick up on when you watch that video. It's straight lecture, but as he's lecturing, he's scrolling, he's picking up stuff, and he's showing it to you. And again, just a unique guy. And he mostly does puzzles, and I watched him and I was like, wow, man, I feel dumb, because you want to cut this outline first. Now, sometimes I'll cut some of the detail as I go on this, because I'm trying to get us to a point here. And we're probably not going to get there, but that's okay. We can post it later, the finished piece, because I am going to finish this today for sure. You outline it, and then you cut the individual pieces. And like I said, every piece I cut, I try to figure out how I can cut that piece counterclockwise. I think I said that, but I didn't give you a reason why I like to cut counterclockwise and why Tom Taylor got me to cutting counterclockwise. When I first started scrolling, I was doing the set of jump wings, military jump wings, Army jump wings in a circle. And Tom asked me, he's like, hey man, are you using flat blades? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, start cutting your circles counterclockwise. And I asked him why, and he's like, do the blade curve on the Flying Dutchman ultra reverse blades. It creates a natural curve as you cut counterclockwise, and allows you for a better cut and a more what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, your circle cut is going to be much better if you cut in a counterclockwise pattern. I didn't believe it. I didn't think it would work, but I was like, hey, but I'm willing to give anything a try. And sure enough, it worked. It worked, and now it's weird, because I'll try to cut everything counterclockwise just because he said that that one time, and it worked. And it works in puzzles as well. Everything I cut counterclockwise, you're gonna get a more detailed cut, and you're gonna get a piece that is just going to be rock solid on in that lock and key. And that's what you're trying to do, right? You're trying to keep these lock and keys as accurate as possible. Although in the end, unless you cut off the very end of a lock, it's not going to matter, because it's a puzzle and nobody's going to know the difference but you. That's another thing I like about puzzles. What else do I like about puzzles? I can finish this. If this was out of poplar, I'd probably already be done. I can finish a puzzle out of poplar or pine, depending on the detail of the piece, and maybe an hour. Oak, this piece, it'll take me maybe 2 hours, and because this piece is detailed, maybe 2.5 at the most. But once I get it all cut out, it won't take very long at all. the worst part is cutting the detail out of the wings. So, not bad.
We have a few more questions here. You can keep sawing. If you has anyone used sand flea for sanding the backs?
So I could hear while I'm sawing, so I can't hear over the saw. So
Oh, okay.
that's fine though. Like I said, we can
has
post this pictures on the page later.
Let's see. Has anyone used sand flea for sanding the backs? I'm not sure what sand flea is.
Me either.
Jeff, when you're done, could you do an example of your sanding techniques?
Oh,
it's from Chicago Celtic Crafts.
I can do that now. So what I do is kind of strange, and it takes me a while, but I come up with this just on a whim one day. I was like, I got every Dremel piece when I started scrolling known to mankind. And I actually got 2 Dremel tools. So they make this Dremel tool called an Easy Lock. And all you do, it's just brilliant, really. All you do is take it out and it locks onto that little piece right there. And these are little steel wools. And I just take that and I go on the outside edges of each piece and sand down as needed. And it helps. It helps. Now what gave me this idea is I was watching, I was like, man, I gotta get up on my finishing game. And I was watching Steve Good on finishing, and he hardly sands anything at all, but he will take a piece of steel wool and go over it. He'll sand it down with 220 sandpaper. And I'll sand, if I got wood that is not scroll saw ready, I'll take an orbital sander and sand it down with 220 sandpaper like this. This is a piece of cypress. I'm re-scrolling some patio furniture trays that I did last year out of pressed hardwood, and those of you who are real woodworkers know that did not work out so well. So I found a cypress in a store. I didn't even know what I was going to do with it, but I bought it because I was like, cypress, that's cool, right? And I made a couple of hummingbird puzzles out of the cypress, but my wife said she wanted us to redo that patio furniture. So I was like, cypress, we're going to cut the state of Texas out of cypress. That'll be really cool. And I took, after I rounded everything off this morning, I already cut one. It's in the living room. I don't want to run get it. I sanded it down with 220 sandpaper, and it's silky smooth. Now, I just bought this Hercules orbital sander, right? And I was kind of nervous, but it's the same price as the DeWalt. And some of you are like, why not buy DeWalt? Well, I was in Harbor Freight instead of Lowe's, so I needed a plug-in sander. I got a DeWalt battery sander, but believe it or not, I used this thing the first time this morning, and I like it better. I like it better than my battery-powered DeWalt orbital sander. It smoothed it out. It's crazy. A year from now, I'll let you know. I'll let you know if it lasts. You know, I've had the DeWalt going on 2 years. It's great, but this thing put a finish on that cypress wood that I've not seen yet. So So we'll see how it works out. But that's my sanding techniques for both puzzles and other stuff.
Awesome. And then let's see, we have Roberta said, I don't use the sand flea after a cut. Honestly, I don't use it much. And she also said, hands is fun to watch.
So I've heard of that sand flea, but I can't think of where I heard of it at before. I think when I first started doing some fret work, I was looking for what people use to sand the back of it off. But what do you do? What do you do with your little fuzzies when you get done, Shaylee, on your?
I actually have a mouse sander,
Yeah.
and I mouse sand the back of it. as long as your fret work piece, it doesn't matter how detailed and fragile it is, as long as you have it on a flat surface and it's flat,
right.
A mouse sander will do no harm to your piece at all. I run a mouse sander over it, and then I will use sanding sticks in little pieces that didn't come off, but I don't get a lot of fuzz usually. So one swipe over with my mouse sander, and then a little bit with my sanding stick if I need to, or a little piece of sandpaper in the like little grooves. But other than that, that's about it.
Yeah, somebody said that they use a I had a break off I had two break offs in one night on a dolphin puzzle I do, and it was in the same spot. One was a sanding issue because that Hercules is lucky to be alive, but it was really my fault because I was an idiot for using a disc sander on a puzzle to begin with. But I was trying to find a faster way to sand those than the Dremel, and I hooked that bad boy up and I broke a tail off. But somebody said they use a mouse sander as well for their more delicate work, and it seems to work as well, especially on puzzles. So I think I'm gonna have to go pick one of those up, those mouse sanders.
Yeah, they're nice to have.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, we don't have any more questions, so saw away, sir. Gary says, have you ever stack cut puzzles?
I have not.
And I have a question for you. How thick of wood do you recommend for puzzles?
So at least if you're doing puzzles, it depends on the puzzle, but if you're doing the animal puzzles like I'm doing here, you got to go at least 3/4 inch. At least 3/4 inch. And we're gonna, as my good friend Charles Deering would say, by God, we're gonna solve this problem right here. Sometimes the puzzle won't come out because you do such a good job at cutting it. The outline. You just take your
John.
Hey, ain't nothing better than a solid piece of oak. I think that's another thing I like about puzzles is the thicker wood. You don't blow out as much. It's more forgiving. And there's a lot less room for error using, well, a lot more room for error, I should say, using thicker wood. But there's our puzzle cut out right there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and cut the stand out. So when this puzzle is cut out, it'll actually stand up. It'll stand up just like that right there. And the fish as part of the stand and the puzzle as well. The eagle claws will all fit right inside there. What am I doing? I already got them out. We're going to switch out now that we're cutting the puzzle pieces out. We're going to switch out to these number 3 Ultra. And you really don't have to switch out. You don't have to switch out to a less thicker blade. But I'm switching out because I like a tighter cut for the puzzle pieces themselves. But again, you don't have to switch out. It's just preference. And I might, with this being oak, I might switch back. I don't know. Can you guys see what I'm dropping? I don't know. How many people do this, right? I seen a friend of mine. He keeps a bucket by a screw saw. I keep a bucket there so I can just toss in blades and scrap wood, and I'll go dump that bucket out when it gets full.
I have 4 buckets.
Bailey's got 4.
But I save all my pieces because, you know, a little tiny scrap piece I can make into earrings or something.
So I had a shelf over here. I just cleaned up the shop because by chance Charles' hand logs in. I didn't want him seeing a messy shop because it's been known that Charles' hand has one of the cleanest shops in the scrolling world. So I threw out a whole trash can full of scrap pieces I had, but it was all, the pieces I threw out was all pressed plywood that I used to use from Lowe's and Home Depot, and I've since been educated on wood and wood choice, and I think it's So important. It's good. That stuff's great if you're starting out, but just order hardwood. And then there's tons of video on if you need your boards to be bigger or wider, you can make your own. Order quality birch from Woodcraft, or go see your local sawmill. They can get it for you. But make sure you're using quality wood so your stuff's not going to come apart in the end.
Russ Beard is in the chat.
Who's in?
Russ.
Oh, no. Oh, no. That makes me nervous now, man. My mentor being in here, the guy who got me started, really, and has answered every stupid question I have. You know, that's the thing. I don't know what you like most about scrolling, Shaylee, but I think the thing I like most about scrolling is everybody I've reached out to, from guys like Charles Deering, Alex Fox, even all the way in the Ukraine, Charles Hand, Russ, all of those guys. You send them a message, it might not be right away, but they're gonna send you a message back and answer your question. It's just crazy. All these scrolling superheroes are just there for you every time you have a question. I think it's amazing.
It's a really, really, really cool community.
It really is. And I think me and Russ, we get along. We get along because we got a lot in common, you know. He's got bad knees from stuff he used to do. I got bad knees from stuff I used to do. Some of it was the same stuff. His military career was a lot cooler than mine, though. But I won't give that away. He might not want me telling that out. But he had a pretty cool military career.
Charles Deering said, "I've never been called a superhero." LOL.
By God.
And we have Mike in the chat now. Hello, Mike. Gary, I can actually answer that because I had to move it. The white item on his saw just above the Seiko nameplate is actually a magnet LED light that he uses when he saws. But when we got into the video, he had it on and you couldn't see the pattern at all. It was just like big white piece of wood. So we had him turn it off so you guys could see his pattern a little better. But that's what that is. Jeff, they're all interested in your magnet light on your saw.
All right.
Can you show them how it works?
Right. I mean, it goes anywhere you want it to go. And I bought it from Seiko, but
it is a Seiko light.
Yeah, I don't know, because when I first moved the wood shop back here, this is actually kind of was a storage room, and when I first got a scroll saw, I was like, I'm gonna just clean out the storage room and move into there, and I kind of cleaned this area up. My kids got me the pegboard, and 2 years ago for Christmas, and then last year, 2 years ago for Christmas, and then last year they bought me the drill press, and then for Father's Day they bought me a workbench. There used to be a bunch of shelves over here, and I took all those out. Some of you may have seen that demolition at work, and then down away from here, there's a storm shelter that I've turned into like a craft room, and I moved a router table down there. So there was no light in here at all. In fact, the light we have is a hyper tough light I bought at Walmart with like 5,000 lumens in it, and the little bitty light bulb above provided no light. So when I first started scrolling, I really needed this, and I still use it at night because it gets dark in here. It's a great light though. I keep leaving it on, so I keep waiting for it to burn out, and I'm gonna have to order another one from those guys, I guess. But it works. So we got the first piece of the puzzle cut out. It's the first piece I always cut out, and the eagle sets on that right there. It just holds back onto that, and if we were a little bit more level, it would.
Is there a reason why you cut the base first?
No, just preference. Just preference. I like to make sure that the claws are going to fit into the base, and I guess I figure if I screw the base up, there's no need in cutting the rest of the puzzle.
Good point.
Maybe that's it. If I screw that up, plus the fish just looks mean, man. He has got attitude written all over him. Like he's gonna give this bird a fight, but I don't see how he's gonna fight. And so I love this pattern. I originally cut this pattern out of oak for myself, and my mom ended up wanting it. So I get, what mom wants, she gets. Or always. So I ended up giving the first one I made to her, and then I made a couple more to see if they would sell. And at the farmers market, this eagle is like one of my most popular items. I get a shelf board for $20, oak shelf board for $20. I make 3 eagles out of it, and it's a pretty good turnaround. I don't charge an arm and a leg for them. Again, because I like eagles. I like seeing them when I fish. It's like my favorite part about fishing is seeing the eagles where I live fish. And we're gonna cut this guy's head out just so you can see. I'm gonna trim this off a little bit though.
Hey, Rick. Welcome. Lori, as soon as he's done sawing, I'll ask him that question. And as far as your other question goes, is there currently a wait list for Seiko scroll saws? There is not. They are in stock and ready to ship.
They are. I just seen that yesterday. That's awesome.
And her other question was, do you ever cut the eagle fish puzzle out of other kinds of wood?
I have not yet, but I think it would be great to do in walnut. I think that would be great to do. I'm actually going to order some walnut next week to try it out. So there's an eagle's head cutting out, and the great thing about this puzzle is you turn it either way. You're gonna get it. Let me see. You're gonna get it, and again, need to do some sanding on the back end, but
That's awesome.
yeah, and it'll fit right back in there, just like that right there.
So cool. Now, do you take the piece off after it's cut off and keep going?
I do.
Okay.
Now, a lot of guys will scroll puzzles back to back. Like I did 5 hummingbirds the other night. So what I did to keep the puzzle pieces separate, because I'm still not that accurate at cutting the pieces, so I want to keep them separate, because if you're not accurate at cutting them out, your puzzle pieces will not fit another puzzle. That's one thing to keep in mind. So if you mess up some pad, if a piece breaks off, you're probably going to have to start from scratch, depending on the piece it is and depending on what lock you cut. Not all cases, but some cases, like I told you I had a dolphin tail break off the other night. I had to cut the entire puzzle because it was actually 2 pieces that lock in there together.
Okay, I got some questions for you now.
Okay.
Actually, one is just a comment. The walnut would cut easier than oak. And then Gary's asking, did Jeff apply the pattern directly to the wood, or did he use blues painter's tape or shelf paper applied to the wood before the pattern is applied to reduce the oak burning?
So I use shelf paper. It's all I'm using now. I think it's all you use too, right?
Yep.
Really?
It is.
$12 for it. We went to Walmart the other night. Word must be out. Scroll sawing is cool, and using shelf paper is cool, because Walmart was all out. Sam's was all out. I'm gonna have to order some from Amazon, I think. But shelf paper is the way to go. I'm kind of embarrassed because I was using shelf paper all wrong when I first started using it. Because you know what I was doing, Shaylee?
What?
I was putting the pattern down and first, and then putting the shelf paper over the pattern. So that's not what you want to do.
No.
you want to put the shelf paper down, then glue the pattern to the shelf paper. And most of you are like, well, any idiot would know that. I will tell you, the first few times I tried it and did it, I was super tired and I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. Again, I read an article in Scroll Saw magazine by Charles Hand, and it kind of straightened me out on that picture. And Russ Beard is probably laughing his ass off right now because he's like, "I've told you how to do it like 100 times, you idiot." So, but again, when I'm back here in the shop, I'm usually dog tired. So when I'm doing stuff, sometimes I'm not in my right mind, or thinking about it just right because I've just gotten off work. But I've got a better job now, a great job to where I'm not as tired and not as stressed. So, and I work with a great team. So I'm able to think a little bit smarter back here in the shop than I would than I have been in the past for sure. And 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 I'm in shape. Um, I've been getting after it in the gym, and I will tell you, it's you wouldn't think that being healthy improves your woodworking skills, but it actually has mine. I think it's more blood flow to the brain than anything. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. But shelf paper for sure. And Russ, I know he's laughing his ass off right now. I know he is.
We all learn.
We do. We do.
Sometimes harder ways than others.
Hard knocks.
Okay, I want you to do a couple more pieces for sure.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah, keep going.
We'll do something really. Oh, God. All right, let's start.
You're doing good on time.
Okay. All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut the details out of these tail feathers. And I don't think we answered that question about walnut. So I have not cut with walnut yet. That's why I'm ordering it next week. Somebody actually ordered a moose puzzle from me, and then somebody ordered a ranger scroll from me, and I'm going to cut both of those out of walnut, just because I think that'll look really good. Both the ranger scroll and the moose out of walnut, and I think if that looks good, I'm going to do this puzzle out of walnut. But from what the puzzle books tell me, and I've ordered every puzzle book I can think of from Fox Chapel. It's crazy. Like every month, I'm ordering a different puzzle book, and I think I got them all now from Fox Chapel. But the puzzle books say that walnut is really easy to work with when it comes to scrolling. Now, I did a puzzle. I did a puzzle for my daughter out of bloodwood, not padak. It's completely different. It's from the same, almost the same type of tree, but the tree the bloodwood comes from is a lot harder. It's harder than oak, and I did not realize that. My daughter walks in my shop and sees the bloodwood, and she's like, "Oh, I want my German Shepherd puzzle cut out of that, Dad." So I was like, "Why not? I'll cut your German Shepherd puzzle out of that." And about 2 hours later, I was like, "Oh, that's why not." But I ended up finishing the puzzle, but I'll probably never ever cut another puzzle out of bloodwood again because the wood's just so hard.
Roberta said, I have put packing tape to reduce burning. Rick says, I love cutting walnut. It cuts really nice. And Gary says, you will like the smell in the shop when you cut walnut.
Yeah. You know, that's the thing. I like the smell of wood, period. I do, but I really, it's weird. I like the smell of the bloodwood in the paddock when I'm cutting paddock. I cut that clock back there you see is cut out of paddock, but I make sure I wear a face mask when I'm cutting that. Oh man, I got this shelf paper on there. Too good. All right, so shelf paper. This is the reason you use shelf paper right here. You see that? It comes right off. No mess, no fuss, no blue tape. It's awesome. And again, that was the toe feather we just cut off. And it's gonna go back right there. Do some detail on the claws.
Hi, I'm Bill from Missouri. There's nothing like the smell of walnut in your shop. Hi, Bill. And no, there's not.
And these guys are making me want to order that walnut like right now.
They're good. Woodworkers are good at that.
Yeah, they really are. Yeah, so I got about 10 more years till I retire. I'm retired military, but I work full time as a Department of the Army civilian at the U.S. Army Combat Readiness Center. We used to be the Safety Center, but now we're the Combat Readiness Center. But I got about 10 years, and after that 10 years, this is all I'm going to do right here is work in the shop and fish. Now we're cutting out the claws. We just cut out all the detail for the claws.
Your retirement plan sounds perfect. And Lori Scott says, my dad retired from the Army at Fort Benning, Georgia. That's probably not too far from you.
Oh no, it's only about 2.5 hours, depending on which side of Benning you're going to. I used to I got to teach history as a green shooter. Back when I was active duty, I was the director of the military history department at the U.S. Army Warrant Officer Career College, and I used to go to Fort Benning quite a bit. We'd take our senior warrant officers up there to visit the U.S. Army National Infantry Museum. They're right outside of Fort Benning Gate, man. That's a remarkable museum right there. They put a lot of money and effort into that museum. And that guy that just commented, I didn't hear his name, but I will tell you, man, military retirement is the best. The best. If I knew it was going to be this good, I would have years ago. Oh wait, I actually did try to retire before I ever retired. I tried to retire at 24 years. When I reached 24 years active duty, I tried to retire, but I had moved some money around in my college fund for my kids and created what you call additional duty.
You're cutting in and out.
Your as well. Those of you who don't know, I've been talking about being in the military. I was Army 28 years. I was my rank was kind of weird. It's a technical rank, Chief Warrant Officer 4. So most people who know warrant officers, the majority of the warrant officers in the Army fly. But there's actually 52 MOSs. And I was a ground maintenance guy, so I managed fleet maintenance, and not just on vehicles, but radios, weapon systems, Bradley's tanks. You name it, we managed it. And the first 13 years I spent as a mechanic. I started off as a power generation mechanic and switched to light wheel vehicle mechanic when I became a sergeant. And the majority of my career, I supported special operations and light airborne infantry units. So I was one of those crazy dudes who jumped out of airplanes for a while.
Did you like it?
Jumping out of planes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the jumping part, but military jumps, there's a lot of hurry up and wait when you're doing military jumps. So the military knows how to make everything not fun. But I will tell you, being airborne, there was just a lot of camaraderie there, because you take a bunch of guys and gals who jump out of airplanes, and they're willing to do it. there's just something different about that individual who's willing to jump out of an airplane into combat with full combat gear. You know, you don't just have 30 pounds of parachute strapped to you. Your rucksack, on average, is going to weigh at least between 30 to 45 pounds, and I've had rucksacks weigh up to 65 pounds jumping into drop zones. So, and then once you land, the jump's over with. You know, that's when the work begins. That's what I used to tell everybody that say, "Oh, I want to be airborne." I said, "Well, that's all fine and dandy, but the work don't start until after the jump is over with." And then tell me, go do that, and then tell me if you want to jump out of airplanes, because the jumping is the easy part. It's the once you land and get everything situated, that's the hard part. Because you're either jumping to secure an airfield or to infiltrate something in the military.
Barry says, a question on Seiko's magnet top. I have had about 1 year's use, and I'm noticing plastic top portion of the top is coming off. Any thoughts? So the magnet top is like accessory to put on to help protect your actual scroll top. I think a year in is amazing. I've gone through like 3.
I just ordered a new one. And Tom Taylor says there's something you can buy at Home Depot to put over this, and it'll actually also expand your table. I forget what he said, because he called me on the phone because I was having a problem. I had a problem with the blade, and he fixed it, but I was having a problem, and I asked him, I was like, "Hey man, I think I'm gonna have to get a new tabletop," and he said, "Well, instead of doing that, why don't you do this?" And I forget exact. I should have wrote it down. I should have wrote it down because I wanted to go try it. I'm not as industrious as Tom is. I mean, those of you who know Tom.
We lost him again. Hey, Leonard. Let's see if he'll come back here with us. He's frozen.
I would say MacGyver, but not many people remember who MacGyver is. So.
Okay, hold on. I got to make you full screen because you actually froze and you just came back in. 1 second here. There we go. And let's see. Lori Scott says, my dad was a chief warrant officer. He was a Chinook helicopter pilot. Roberta says, we are near, oh my goodness, how am I going to Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Fayetteville.
I'm butchering that. Home of the airborne. We see C-130s flying most days.
Fayetteville, North Carolina. Yeah, I was stationed at Fort Bragg for let's see, we were there almost 9 years, I think. 9 years. Before that, I was in Vicenza, Italy, with 3rd 325 Airborne Combat Team. Are we still on?
You're good. You're good.
All right. And that Chinook is actually my favorite jump, man. I'm actually at Fort Rucker. So Fort Rucker, those of you who don't know, we live in Enterprise, Alabama, but Fort Rucker is about 8 miles away from Enterprise. And Fort Rucker is a home of Army aviation. So all warrant officers go to right now. They go to warrant officer candidate school in Fort Rucker for 6 weeks. It's a 6-week course to become a warrant officer, and then if you're going to be an Army aviator, you're going to stay here for a year to 18 months learning to fly Army aircraft. And I will tell you, the Chinook helicopter is my absolute favorite helicopter to fly in. There's lots of room. It's a beast. It can pick up anything. You need it to pick up, well, I say most anything. It's not going to pick up an M1 or a Bradley, but and it's my favorite jump because you walk right off the tailgate of the aircraft. I love that helicopter. So yeah, my favorite place that I was stationed, mainly because I met my wife there. Me and my wife, we've been married going on 30 years. In August, we would have been dating. We only dated 3 months. It's kind of funny. We only dated 3 months and then we got married. So the odds were not in our favor. But we blasted a lot of hard work. But my favorite place to be stationed was Italy. I haven't been there in 29, 28 years, but I will tell you, to this day, I love Italian food. I can still speak a little Italian. And the guys, I tell you, the guys that I met there in the military, they're still like brothers to me. They are my brothers. That unit, 3325 Airborne Combat Team, we were kind of an Army. You got conventional and you got non-conventional. Non-conventional being your special ops, your Rangers, stuff like that, airborne units. But we were kind of the conventional, non-conventional task force at the time in Europe. If there was something that was going to go down on in North Africa, we were going to go, and we did a few times. We ended up in northern Iraq in 1991. Nobody even knew about that operation, for an operation called Provide Comfort. We were in Dahuk and Zaku before 2001 ever took place. So it's kind of neat there, and it's kind of funny. Most of the guys who were our battalion commanders, they're all retired 4-star general officers now. So you talk about a unit that produced a lot of great leaders, great soldiers, and like I said, those guys that I met there, just they taught me a lot about life, for sure. Love being in Italy, though.
Lori Scott says, I've got to go. It was fun hearing your story, Jeff. Thanks for your service and best wishes with your scroll sign. And she said, have a great week, Shay. And then Roberta said, my son was at Bragg. My husband was in Jacksonville, USMC. And she says, we don't usually see helicopters, different flight path.
Oh, wow.
Lori, you have a great week as well. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Bill says, how often are your scroll saw live streams? Bill, we just started them. They're going to be Wednesdays and Sundays. I don't know if we'll end up every week, but that's our goal, is to be on Wednesdays and Sundays with different makers that use Seiko. The times will vary, though, on Wednesdays and Sundays, depending on the maker. But those are our 2 days a week that we're trying to go live.
So the wings are a bit more detailed. They're going to take me a while to cut, because you see I got to stair step some of that stuff. And I just cut them out in 2 different pieces, because for those of you who are new, all right, you're not going to believe what I'm going to tell you next. But I learned this from Hans Meyer, watching this video. The smaller the piece, the easier it is to cut. The easier it is to cut, because you're not trying to turn a chunk. You see how close you can get your fingers to the blade when you're stair stepping this piece right here? And I will tell you, I forget the name of the book, but it's like the Scroll Saw Handbook 101. But as you're going through and you're guiding that, if you use that book, I'm not sure I understand. And how it guides you, it'll help you along. And I will tell you, Fox Chapel has a lot of great puzzles in it. If you're not into puzzles, that's great. That's awesome. Get into if you're new to scrolling, find your niche, and do as much as you can. Cut puzzles, cut fretwork. You see, I'm working on a fretwork pattern. I picked that back up last night, even though I got mad. I've done clocks. Steve Good. Order the Fox Chapel books. Get on Russ Beard's Facebook page. He's got a lot of free patterns up there. Just amazing fretwork patterns that I haven't tried because I'm too intimidated. I got next, after I finish this pattern I got behind me here, I got this Charles Deering pattern that I'm going to do next. And I kind of did something different with this pattern. Is I read an article. This is actually, I think this is 3 1/8 pieces, maybe 2 1/8 pieces stacked with a couple of cardboard pieces, or not cardboard, but poster board, white poster board in between the pieces. And I'm going to try to get a poster out of this. a couple of posters out of this Apache pattern as well. We'll see. We'll see how it works. I'm really looking forward to cutting this. It's been sitting here for a while. For the cannons, I just took a drill press and drilled those holes in there. That's another thing. When you got multiple holes like this right here, use your Seiko scrollers drill or your drill press in that same diameter. Instead of cutting every one of them holes, just use a drill press and cut those round holes out like that right there. Charles Deering, woodenvisions.com. Go to his site if you're into fretwork patterns. He's got some advanced patterns. He's got some patterns for beginners. They don't cost a lot. If you want to do puzzles, go to Woodcraft by Scott. He's got dog breed puzzles like this. Got a little dirty, but this pug puzzle right here. He's got every dog breed you can think of. These puzzles stand up just like that right there. But whatever niche, find it. Scrolling does a lot of good. You've heard I've been in the military. I dealt with some PTSD issues. I've been deployed multiple times. So I was dealing with that. I bought a scroll saw, and almost overnight, all that stuff just disappeared, and you heard me earlier talking about healthy. I'm finally eating healthy. My shop's not in disarray. I'm going to the gym an hour a day. All of that's helped, but scrolling is the primary reason I'm so focused now. Again, Russ Beard, Tom Taylor, Charles Deering, Charles Hand, Kenny from Kenny's Wood Creations up in the Smoky Mountains in North Carolina. God, I'm forgetting Steve Good at the website. There's just so many people to name. Like me and Shirley said earlier, the scrolling community is so amazing. So amazing. So one more thing before we go from Seiko. Guys, I didn't turn it on because one, it's loud. It may not be that loud. That's pretty loud. But it's this vacuum. The Seiko vacuum. One thing I like about it, what's this? I just grab it from underneath the workbench and I can vacuum up the sawdust right there. What? And if I'd had it on, it would have gotten most of that. I wouldn't have any sawdust on my clothes at all. It'll even suck up that big chunk right here. That is the Seiko dust collection system. Again, I'm not sponsored by Seiko. I just like their products. So if you don't know the Seiko brand or don't have a Seiko saw, definitely go get yourself one. And then order some more of their other products, great products. I got the Seiko scrollers drill. If you're doing fret work, there is no better drill to have as a scroller than that Seiko scrollers drill. It's my primary means of cutting holes for patterns, especially that Vietnam Memorial pattern I'm doing right there. All
Jeff,
right,
will you put some of your puzzle back together really quick so we can see it?
What's that?
Will you put some of your puzzle back together so we can see it real quick? And then we'll let you go.
Yeah, so I'm not trying to rush you out of here, but a very important person just showed up. One of my granddaughters. So.
Oh, how fun!
Yeah. All right, we're gonna put these claws back in here.
Well, you have inspired me. I am looking at puzzle patterns right now. I'm gonna try my first puzzle.
They're not hard. In fact, you'll probably Holy crap! You probably nail it your first try.
Well, you know, I'm all about fretwork, so it will be.
You are.
It will be interesting.
You are, but this is so much easier than the stuff you're used to doing. Maybe, well, maybe that'll be the problem. It's not. It won't be enough. It won't be a challenge for you.
Or it'll be a challenge.
That's true.
I clicked to get notifications. Awesome. I'm glad that you did. If you guys haven't yet, you can click to receive notifications. So when we go live, you'll be notified. And Chicago Celtic Crafts said, thank you, Jeff. Learned a lot today. And then Roberta said, I got the scroller's drill. I love it, especially for fretwork. Yes, the scroller's drill is amazing. I couldn't do what I do for fretwork without it, for sure.
No, there ain't no way. Like trying to drill, you know, that was half the battle when I didn't have it, was trying to figure out a way to drill all those tiny holes.
Yeah, I had bought a drill press when I got my first saw, and I instantly was like regret, because the throat, I couldn't get my drill out the middle of my portrait that I wanted. So I was super bummed about that.
Yeah, if you're doing fretwork, I will tell you, there's no better tool out there than that scrollers. Now, some guys use the Dremel, and the Dremel
plunge.
Yeah, they use that with success and good on them. But I will tell you that scroller's drill, just remarkable. There we go.
Awesome.
There we go. And again, I'll post pictures once it's completed.
Okay. We'll get those on the Seiko site for sure. So if you aren't on our Instagram or Facebook page, make sure you go follow so you can see the finished projects from Makers Lives. And Jeff, thank you for your service. Thank you for your time here today. Yeah. I really appreciate it. We definitely enjoyed it.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this old boring soldier. So I appreciate it.
You are not boring. You jump out of planes. By the way, in the description of this video, there is links to his Facebook page and his website. So go check him out and follow him. He's got some really cool stuff up there. And thanks everybody in the chat for coming and hanging out with us today. We really appreciate it. And I will announce when we have our next Makers Live, and I will definitely post finished pictures of Jeff's puzzle.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, Shaylee.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Bye, everybody.
Bye. See you guys later.